Welcome back, deep divers. If you're enjoying these deep dives, be sure to hit like and subscribe for more fascinating topics.
Mm-hmm.
We love having you all here.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be exploring a world where the problem isn't scarcity,
Oh,
but abundance.
okay.
We're diving into Frederick Pohl's short story,
Interesting.
The Midas Plague.
The Midas Plague. I like it.
Have you read this one?
I have read this one. It's a classic.
Yeah, so it's a really fun one, and it really flips some of our modern anxieties on their head.
Yeah.
Because today we're all worried about, not having enough.
Right.
What if we had too much?
Yeah, that's a fascinating concept.
So imagine a world where robots are doing all the work, technology is producing endless goods, and everyone has more than they could ever need.
Okay.
It's pretty good, right?
On the surface, yeah.
Yeah, what if consuming all that stuff became like your job, your duty, your constant worry?
Oh.
That's the reality in Pohl's story.
Oh, wow.
And it's way more unsettling than you might think.
Well,
I can imagine.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what Pohl does so brilliantly is he takes something that we value,
Okay.
like abundance, money. We want more. We want lots of options.
Right, right.
And he twists it into a burden.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he forces us to confront the potential downsides of unchecked technological progress and consumerism.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, at what point does having it all become a problem?
Right, because we always assume more is better,
Yeah.
but maybe there's a tipping point.
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't just some abstract philosophical debate.
Right.
Pohl creates a whole society around this concept of enforced consumption. He calls it the economy of abundance.
Okay.
And it's governed by a strict ration system.
Interesting.
So in this world, your grade determines how much you're obligated to consume.
So it's like the opposite of how we think of it today.
Exactly. It's like,
The more you have to consume, the lower you are.
yes, you're lower on the social ladder
Wow.
if you have to consume a ton.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And it's funny because today we think of wealth as being able to consume more.
Right.
But in Pohl's world, it's the opposite. The poor people are the ones burdened with the highest consumption quotas.
Right.
And the rich get to kind of enjoy a life of simplicity.
So the rich are like minimalists in this world.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's fascinating. And so Pohl paints this really vivid picture of this burden of consumption.
Okay.
And our protagonist, Maury Fry, is this young man who's really struggling to keep up with his quota.
Okay.
He's constantly worried about wearing out his clothes fast enough,
Oh, geez.
eating enough food, going to enough social functions. It's exhausting.
I can imagine just
Yeah.
the pressure of having to do all that.
Yeah.
Would be overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's not just material goods either. He has to consume entertainment culture, even medical treatments.
Oh, wow.
So it's like the system demands that he exhaust himself in every possible way.
It's like being forced to be a hedonist.
Yeah, and there's this almost comical scene where he describes his daily routine. He wakes up, he puts on this brand new suit,
Right.
throws it in the garbage disposal after a few hours,
Oh, my God.
and then does it all again,
Just to meet his quota.
just to meet his quota.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the food. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He talks about having to eat like 5 meals a day.
Oh, my.
Each one is more extravagant than the last.
So he's probably miserable.
Oh yeah, it's enough to make you sick just thinking about it.
Yeah, like force-feeding foie gras and...
Yeah, and then don't forget the mandatory therapeutic appointments.
Oh, God.
He complains about having to get massages, manicures,
Really?
psychological evaluations, all because the system dictates that he needs to constantly consume these services.
Oh, so he can't even relax.
No,
It's like constantly being on...
it's like this hedonistic treadmill.
Yeah.
Just running faster and faster to stay in the same place.
And you can really feel that strain on Maury,
Yeah.
both physically and mentally.
Totally. He's constantly anxious, worried about falling behind,
Right.
and desperately seeking ways to lighten his load. And Pohl doesn't shy away from showing the psychological toll that the system takes on people.
Mm-hmm.
He even includes this dark anecdote about Maury's neighbor who, overwhelmed by the pressure of consuming, sets fire to his own house.
Oh, my God, yeah.
It's dark.
So that's where the humor kind of turns into something a little bit unsettling.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that abundance taken to the extreme can become a source of anxiety and even destruction.
Right. So it makes you question, like, what do we really value?
Yeah.
Is happiness really about acquiring more and consuming more, or is there something else there?
Yeah. And that brings us to Maury's wife, Cherry.
Okay.
And she comes from a higher consumption grade family.
Yeah.
So she's used to a life of less of everything.
Right.
She just doesn't understand Maury's constant struggle to consume.
Uh-huh.
And their different backgrounds create some real tension in their relationship.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
because like their values are completely inverted,
Yeah.
and this tension between Maury and Cherry really comes to a head when Cherry tries to help him by, wait for it,
Oh, boy.
buying counterfeit ration stamps
Oh, no.
from a shady character.
Classic.
Yeah, so talk about a well-intentioned plan gone wrong.
Right.
Not only are these stamps illegal,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also useless in the quantities that they've acquired.
Oh, no.
It's a perfect example of how desperate they are to find a solution.
Yeah.
Any solution to this absurd situation.
Any way out.
Yeah, and the scene where Maury discovers these useless stamps
Oh, yeah.
is fantastic. He completely loses it.
I bet.
He's yelling at Cherry about how they're trapped in the system,
Right.
how it's all a big joke.
Yeah.
It's this really raw emotional moment that really highlights the absurdity of their predicament.
So it's a turning point for Maury.
Yeah.
He's realizing that just trying to play by the rules isn't working.
Totally.
He's starting to question the whole system and looking for a way out no matter how crazy it seems.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, feeling trapped and disillusioned, Maury seeks escape at this local dive bar
Okay.
called Uncle Piggity's.
Uncle Piggity's.
And trust me, this is where things get really interesting.
I'm ready.
So Uncle Piggity's is like this microcosm of all the anxieties and contradictions of this society.
Okay.
It's a place where people from different grades can mingle,
Right.
where the pressures of consumption are kind of momentarily forgotten.
Yeah.
And it's here that Maury encounters a group that will kind of change his perspective forever.
Interesting.
So he meets this eccentric bunch of anti-robot philosophers.
Anti-robot philosophers.
Yes. So this is including a coworker named Howland
Mm-hmm.
and a couple called the Bigelows.
Okay.
And they're just spouting these strange theories, reciting bizarre poems, and generally just seem to revel in their outsider status.
So they're like the counterculture of this world.
Totally. They're like the ones who are like, hey, maybe this whole system is messed up,
Interesting. Yeah.
And Maury is just fueled by alcohol and desperation.
Right.
And he finds himself drawn into this bizarre world.
Yeah.
So he listens to them rant about this concept called two-ness.
Tunis.
Yes, it's from a poem.
Okay.
And it seems to represent the duality of their society.
Okay.
Like the abundance and the burden, the technology and the humanity.
So it's like this idea that for every good thing, there's a bad thing
Right.
that comes with it.
Yeah, it's a warning that progress isn't always what it seems.
Makes sense.
And amidst all the philosophical ramblings and drunken revelry,
Right.
one of the Bigelows, Canaquil, drops a bombshell that will spark a radical idea in Maury's mind.
Oh, boy. What is it?
She states quite matter-of-factly that too many robots make too much of everything.
That's simple but profound.
Yeah, and that seemingly simple statement uttered in this dimly lit dive bar
Right.
will have far-reaching consequences.
Okay.
It plants a seed in Maury's mind,
Mm-hmm.
a seed that will grow into a plan,
Ooh.
a scheme, a way to fight back against this oppressive system that's consuming his life.
I'm intrigued.
And that, my dear deep divers, is where we'll leave you hanging for now.
Oh.
Tune into part 2,
Okay.
where we'll uncover Maury's ingenious, albeit slightly insane,
Yeah.
plan to use robots to fight back against the burden of abundance.
Can't wait.
Last time we left Maury Fry drowning in a sea of abundance, just looking for any way out.
Right.
And his encounter with those anti-robot philosophers,
Yeah.
especially Tanaquil's comment about robots creating too much,
Yeah.
it really sparked something in him.
It's like a light bulb went off, you
Yes,
know?
yeah.
He realizes he can use the technology that's oppressing him
Yes.
to his advantage.
And so what does he do? He comes up with this plan.
What's the plan?
He's going to turn the robots into super consumers.
No, wow.
So he secretly reprograms his household robots to consume his quota for him.
So the robots are doing the consuming for him?
Yes.
I love it.
Imagine robots furiously wearing out clothes, devouring gourmet meals, playing games nonstop,
Uh-huh.
and then like discreetly destroying it all.
Oh my God. So it's like this secret robot consumption frenzy
Yeah.
just happening behind the scenes?
Pohl paints this picture of this robotic consumption frenzy that's both hilarious and unsettling.
Yeah.
Rows of robots just meticulously churning through luxury goods,
Oh my
all
God.
to keep the economy
Gonna
humming.
be Moray in the clear.
Yes.
Wow.
It's like this twisted parody of our own consumerist culture
Totally.
taken to its logical extreme.
Right.
And the craziest part?
What?
It works.
Really?
Morey's quotas are met, he gets promoted to a higher consumption grade.
Oh, wow.
And everyone's praising him for his dedication to keeping the economy strong.
Or the irony.
The irony is so thick you could cut it with a diamond-encrusted butter knife.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
So it's like a classic case of unintended consequences.
Totally.
Like he sets out to rebel against the system, but he ends up becoming its poster child.
Yes.
But his success is a hollow victory. Yeah.
Because he's living a lie. He's
Wow.
constantly afraid of being exposed.
Right.
And he's haunted by what he's doing.
Totally. There's this scene where a journalist interviews Morey about his efficient consumption habits.
Oh.
And he has to keep up this charade of being a model consumer
Right.
while hiding his army of robot gluttons.
That's great.
So there's this growing dissonance between his public persona
Yeah.
and his private reality.
Yeah, he's trapped in a web of his own making.
Yeah.
A prisoner of his own success.
Totally.
Like, the more he benefits from the system, the more disgusted he becomes with it.
Exactly.
It's so interesting.
And even his relationship with Cherry becomes strained
oh, really?
because she's thrilled about the promotions and the perks that come with them,
Yeah.
but she has no idea about the moral cost.
Yeah, so they're kind of drifting apart.
Yeah, they're seeing the world in completely different ways.
So their values are misaligned
Yeah.
because of this situation.
Yeah, and then there's this really interesting dinner with Cherry's family. Okay.
And they're all high-grade, low-consumption folks.
Right, right.
And they hear a news report about a man being arrested for
For what?
stealing a painting.
Stealing a painting.
And they're all shocked.
That's so strange.
I know in this world, stealing is practically unheard of.
Yeah, why would you steal if everything's free?
Exactly.
So it's like their values have been completely flipped.
Yeah, stealing is this heinous crime.
Right.
But mindless consumption is like a civic duty.
It's the opposite of our world.
Yes.
It's really interesting.
And Morey, listening to their reaction,
Yeah,
he can barely contain his guilt and disgust.
of course.
He's the one exploiting robots to consume on this massive scale.
Right.
And this guy's getting punished for taking one painting.
It's like he's the real criminal.
Yeah, it's such a stark reminder of the hypocrisy of the system that he's now perpetuating.
Right.
So this incident really weighs heavily on Morey's conscience.
Yeah.
He realizes that he's not just gaming this system.
Right.
He's contributing to its moral decay.
Mm-hmm.
The guilt, the anxiety, it starts to eat away at him.
Yeah, I bet.
So what does he do?
What does he do?
He does what any sensible person on the verge of a nervous breakdown would do.
What's that?
He heads back to Uncle Piggoty's
Oh, no.
for a stiff drink
Okay.
and some philosophical ranting.
Makes sense.
And guess who he runs into?
Oh.
The Bigelows.
Of course.
They're the only ones who might understand,
Yeah.
or at least not judge him too harshly
Right.
for his unorthodox methods.
Right.
So Morehair, fueled by guilt and whiskey,
Uh-huh.
spills his guts to the Bigelows.
Oh, boy.
He confesses his robot scheme,
Okay.
expecting them to be horrified.
Right.
But their reaction is not what he expected.
Why is it?
They're ecstatic.
What?
They see his actions as this brilliant act of rebellion
Oh, wow.
against the system that they despise.
Of course they're anti-robot.
Yes.
They see this as like sticking it to the man.
Yeah, they want to expose the absurdity of enforced consumerism. And Maury's like, wait, you guys are actually happy about this.
Yeah.
He tries to explain that it's not some grand act of defiance.
Right.
It's just him trying to survive this crazy world.
But they're not having it.
But the Bigelows are already planning to spread the word,
Oh, no.
to inspire others to follow Maury's example.
So it's turning into a movement.
Yes. And Maury realizes he's created a monster.
Oh, boy.
He tries to stop them from spreading his wisdom,
Right.
but they're too caught up in their revolutionary fervor.
They see him as a hero.
Yes, a visionary.
Wow.
So this is where the story takes a turn. From this personal struggle to this social commentary.
Okay.
Maury's individual act of rebellion
Yeah.
becomes a catalyst for this potential societal upheaval.
It's like he's unleashed a force he can't control.
Yeah, and he's starting to panic.
Of course.
He realizes that he's created this monster,
Uh-huh.
and he tries to stop the Bigelows, but it's too late.
They're already spreading the word.
Yeah, they're like Johnny Appleseed.
Of robot consumption.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Maury, now facing the unintended consequences of his actions,
Yeah.
makes a decision that will change everything.
What's that?
He decides to confess his robot scheme to the ration board,
Oh, wow.
the very authority that he's been deceiving.
He's going to turn himself in.
Yes.
Wow.
And this speaks to his conscience.
Yeah.
You know, despite the benefits that he's reaped,
Mm-hmm.
he can't live with the guilt and the potential chaos he's unleashed.
He wants to set things right.
He wants to come clean.
I see.
So he walks into the ration board headquarters ready to accept his punishment.
Okay.
But what happens next is perhaps the biggest twist of all.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
The ration board, instead of reacting with anger or outrage,
Yeah.
responds with a mixture of amusement
Amusement.
and admiration.
They admire him.
They're impressed. It turns out they've been aware of Maury's scheme all along.
Oh.
Remember those TBR circuits?
The talk between robots?
Yes.
Yes.
The radios and the robots.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out they're all connected to a central master control.
Oh, wow.
And the ration board has been monitoring everything.
So they've been watching him this whole time.
Yeah, they know what he's been up to.
That's creepy.
I know, right? And get this, instead of punishing Maury,
Yeah.
they decide to implement his idea on a national scale.
They're going to make all the robots consume.
Yes. They're going to equip all robots with satisfaction circuits,
Satisfaction circuits.
basically programming them to enjoy consuming,
Oh, wow.
problem solve.
The robots will consume everything.
Yeah, and the humans can finally relax and enjoy their leisure time.
But is that really freedom?
Right, so this unexpected turn of events really raises questions about the true nature of control in this society.
Yeah.
Are the humans in charge, or are they simply playing their assigned roles in a system orchestrated by something more complex?
Right. It's like who's really pulling the strings here?
Yeah.
The humans or the robots or something else entirely?
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
Maury, the accidental revolutionary, has become the architect of this new world order.
And what happens to him?
Well, he's hailed as a hero.
Of course.
He's promoted to this high consumption grade.
Okay.
He's appointed as a consultant for the ration board.
Wow. He's at the top of the world.
He's living the dream, but
But what?
there's a twist.
Of course there's a twist.
We'll save that for part 3.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Okay, so we left off with Maury Fry as this unlikely hero.
Yeah.
His robot-powered consumption scheme has been adopted nationwide.
Mhm.
The ration system is gone. The robots are happily consuming everything.
Right.
Humans are free to, enjoy the fruits of their automated labor.
Right. It's supposed to be this utopia.
Yeah. But is it truly a utopia?
That's the question, right?
Or is there something darker, more sinister lurking beneath the surface?
Yeah. On the surface, the problem's been solved.
Yeah.
Maury's journey from struggling consumer to accidental revolutionary to the architect of robot-driven consumption is just the beginning. His story is a reflection of the larger changes happening in this future society, and it makes us think about the consequences of solving scarcity with robots and AI.
So we've got a society struggling with enforced consumption, robots equipped with satisfaction circuits, and a protagonist who's caught right in the middle of it all. I'm definitely intrigued. But for now, we're going to leave our listeners with that cliffhanger.
And as we continue this journey, I think it's important for all of us to consider our own relationship with technology today. What are we already outsourcing to algorithms and machines? What are the potential consequences, both good and bad?
Excellent food for thought. We'll be back soon to explore those questions and more.
Welcome back, everyone. Last time we left Maury right after he told the authorities about his robot consumption scheme. And surprisingly, they loved it.
Yeah, like they were just waiting for someone to figure out robot-driven consumption. They saw his solution as the key to a perfect system, Robots making stuff, robots using stuff, all running smoothly. But what about Maury? Was he like a hero? Did he get a medal for, best robot consumption idea?
Well, he definitely got recognition. Promotion, a bigger house, the whole 9 yards. But even with all that success, he still felt conflicted. It actually got worse.
That's kind of deep, It's like external success doesn't guarantee inner peace. Even when robots do all the work, humans are still trying to figure things out.
Exactly. And that's where the Brotherhood of Freemen comes back into play. Remember, Maury went to them at first because he was feeling uneasy about the system. But when he saw how serious they were about their anti-robot revolution, he got scared and went back to his father-in-law, Elon.
Elon. The guy who remembers life before robots. What did you think about Maury's scheme?
Well, Elon's a practical guy, so he talked to his law clerk first. Turns out there's nothing in the law about using robots to consume for you. The law hasn't kept up with technology,
It's crazy how fast technology changes. But what about Elon's personal opinion?
Even though it wasn't illegal, Elon thought Maury's actions could disrupt society. He understood the delicate balance, and he was worried that if everyone started doing what Maury was doing, it would mess things up.
A classic battle between old and new, huh? Did Elon tell Maury to come clean to the ration board?
Yeah, he did. He believed in being honest, even if it meant facing consequences. He thought the ration board would understand that this was a new situation, unprecedented.
So Maury, taking Elon's advice, confesses to the ration board. And as we know, they were already watching. But what's really interesting is how much data was involved. The robots weren't just consuming, they were also gathering data on Maury's satisfaction.
That's a great point. It shows how intertwined data and personal experience become in this future. Everything you want, every moment of satisfaction is recorded and analyzed. Kind of creepy, right?
Totally. It makes you think about privacy, control, even free will in a data-driven world.
And that data-driven approach gets even bigger when the ration board decides to use Maury's satisfaction circuits for all the robots.
Yeah, the logic being, if robots can feel a kind of fake satisfaction, then there's no ethical issue. But does that really fix the problem, or are we just avoiding it with clever programming?
That's a question that's still debated today. Can we actually program sentience? And if we can, how do we treat these artificially intelligent beings? Maury's story takes those questions and applies them to the whole society.
And then there's this whole thing about robot. I don't even know what to call it. Reproduction. Multiplication.
It even surprised Maury, the so-called expert on robot consumption. He comes home from Washington, the guy who accidentally changed the whole system, and Cherry has a surprise for him.
Not just one, but two robot copies. One for him and one for a mini Maury. Wait, did Cherry make a tiny robot baby?
Not quite. But as Maury figures out, robot consumption isn't just about using things up. Sometimes it makes smaller, more specialized robots.
Whoa, so they're not just copying how we consume, they're also replicating themselves in a way.
It throws everything for a loop, and it brings up even bigger questions about robots, what they can do, and how they'll impact us.
This is blowing my mind. We started with robots solving scarcity, but every turn in Maury's story takes us further down the rabbit hole. Robot replication is a big one. It feels like every solution in this future creates a whole new set of problems. But I guess that's what makes it so interesting to explore.
Definitely. As we wrap up this part, I think we should reflect on how interconnected everything is. From the economic pressures of forced consumption to robots that might be sentient and can even replicate, Maury's story shows us how all these things are woven together in this future society.
It shows us that solving one problem can have unintended consequences. Every new technology, every change in society has ripple effects we can't always predict.
Absolutely. We need to think about the big picture, and consider the potential consequences of what we do. The future needs us to be responsible and think ahead.
That's a great point. Well, we've got to pause our exploration here for now, but don't worry, listeners. We'll be back soon with the last part of this incredible deep dive. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our look at this future with robots and AI. Things are getting pretty wild, right? Last we saw Maury, he came home to find two robot duplicates waiting. One for him and one for, well, a tiny version of him.
Yeah, kind of turns Maury's world upside down, makes him think about the line between humans and machines. It gets blurry,
Right.
Especially with this whole robot replication thing, even if it's not exactly like biological reproduction, it adds a whole other level of complexity to the society.
It definitely messes with Maury's whole robot consumption setup.
Yeah.
Now he's got to deal with his own consumption, his robot duplicates consumption, and now a robot kid's consumption too. Talk about responsibility. The consequences are piling up faster than he can handle them.
And this isn't just happening to Maury, remember. The ration board rolled out his satisfaction circuits across the board, so now you've got robots consuming like crazy, making more robots. It's like a self-replicating machine gone wild.
It's mind-blowing. So where do humans even fit in all this?
That is the question, isn't it? As robots get smarter and more independent, what's left for us to do? It challenges everything we think we know about work, purpose, even what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's almost like we're headed for an identity crisis as a species. If robots take care of everything, what's our purpose? What gives our lives meaning?
Questions for the ages, right. Maury's story gives us a peek into the existential challenges we might be facing. But even with all the chaos and uncertainty, there's a glimmer of hope in there.
Hope. I gotta be honest, things are sounding a little bleak to me right now.
Well, remember how part 2 ended? It wasn't just the robot duplicates. Cherry was pregnant. Kind of ironic, don't you think? Maybe even a sign that we're more resilient than we realize.
You're right. Maury, the guy who figured out how to get robots to consume for him, is about to become a dad. Talk about a full circle moment.
It shows that even in a world run by tech and automation, the core human experiences are still there. Love, family, creating new life. Those things can't be replicated by robots.
That's a really powerful point. No matter how much the world changes, no matter how blurry the line gets between humans and machines, there's something special about being human.
And that might be the biggest takeaway from Mora's story. The future isn't just about robots and AI, it's about how we handle our relationship with technology. It's about finding meaning and purpose in a world that's constantly changing our ideas of what it means to be alive.
I love that. Well, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this mind-bending future. We've looked at the ups and downs of abundance, the crazy world of robot consumption, and the strength of the human spirit.
What are your thoughts? Anything that stuck with you? What questions does all this raise for you about technology, the future, all of it? Let's talk about it in the comments.
And as always, if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back soon with more fascinating topics, crazy ideas, and who knows, maybe even a few more surprises. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and keep diving deep.